the mana'o that's provided therein, as well as have us as participants understand the value of ike ku'una and na'awao to help elevate government policy and inform decision-making from an indigenous native Hawaiian worldview. I'd like to introduce our panelists this morning. Dr. KAMANA'o Crabbe, former CEO of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and current CEO of Kohala Institute. A hand for Dr. Crabbe. Also joining us, Dr. Huihui Kanahele-Mossman from the Kealiikanakaoleohaililani Foundation, and Kekuhi Kealiikanakaoleohaililani, also from the Kealiikanakaoleohaililani Foundation, and our dear Uncle Bob Masuda, if I may say. Uncle Bob Masuda, who's the current First Deputy Director for the Department of Land and Natural Resources. I will just say, I love this man dearly. He's going to be 80 years young next month, I think. Yeah? In about 2 or 3 weeks, right? But he served in this role maybe 20 years ago under a prior administration, and he had the fortitude to come back and serve in this capacity. So mahalo for joining us, Uncle Bob.
How was the 2 pieces of bread between the hamburger?
That's a thought provoker. In any case, let us dive in. So, if I can start, again, some of us are very new to this topic of natural laws and what does that mean and how is it that we can apply? Mahalo. Thank you. So if I may pose the first question to either Huihui or Kekuhi, following on Auntie Davy's presentation about natural laws guiding current laws, we wanted to discuss Kiho'iho'i Kanawai. Would you be able to share with us the background of the report, sort of the creation of it, how it was come to be, and Kamana'o, feel free to chime in if you would like to as well. Kalamai, for the most part, we're trying to keep responses to about 5, or Kalamai, this could be a little longer, maybe 10 minutes, but every other question, maybe about 5 minutes response. Mahalo.
Because it goes beyond us, yeah? Okay.
Aloha mai kako, mahalo to you, Kekoa, for inviting us to have this discussion. It just, it's the talking about what we're doing at the very pinnacle of our pai'aina at this current point. So it just wraps it all up. Kiho'iho'i Kanawai is the document. The process we've made honua iakea. The process honua iakea actually came from, it has its background in just really looking for a way to guide our students into participating with Aina. And so we have a master's program down at UH Hilo, the Tropical Conservation Biology. And students from all over the world come to that program to get their degree. And so we really need to insist that if you are going to come to Hawaii Island to get your degree in environment, you have to participate in that environment. And so it goes way beyond just introducing them to place names. It goes way beyond just giving them a nice Hawaiian language lesson. It actually has to do with them relating to what they are going to be connected with in the next few years, because their research is going to contribute to what happens in the next few years to our Hawaii island. And so in order to do that, we wanted to know their perspective of Hawaii island. And so they all come to that graduate studies program already with experience, already with some sort of knowledge, already with some sort of status of knowledge. And so, what we did is we brought our mele, our ancestral mele to the table. And we said, well, since our mele is basically raw data, our mele is basically our kupuna's observation of what goes on out there, and they just made it pa'a in here, and one day somebody wrote it down. Since that's what it is, we want to see how these students from all over the world look at that same kind of data. Also, we want to see people outside of our experience, outside of our expertise, also look at that same kind of data. And so what we did one day, after talking to these kinds of gentlemen, was say, well, why don't we have experts from all over the Pai'aina, not only in Hawaiian culture and language, experts in geology and geophysics, experts in astronomy, experts in navigation, in lokoi'a, what else? In mala'ai, in business. Why don't we have them all sit around at the same table, and we're going to look at the same mele. And those three meles we chose, one was a Hulihia kind of mele, or that mele that talks about the changing, the exuberant changing of a landscape. Another one is a Kulia mele, or a mele that brings everything back to balance. And the third one was a Koihonua mele, or a mele that recites our responsibility and our kapu to the land. And so we looked at those three kind of mele. So everybody that has all of these different backgrounds and different knowledges from all aspects of society sat down at the table, and we looked at the same mele. And what came out of that, we didn't expect. What came out of that was for a geophysicist to put on, to wear his glasses of his experience and look at that mele. There was a totally different picture from what we thought that mele meant. For a forest ecologist to look at that same mele that this geophysicist did, that we did, and again, come up with totally different perspective of what he sees in that mele. For a marine ecologist and a marine biologist to look at that same mele and come up with totally different aspects and observations of nature that mele brought to the table. So all we did was in a very excitable state, because this was great information and great ways of knowing and just some awesome stuff that was coming out from this table of people. We just wrote it all down, every single word. And then that became the document that is Kihoihoi Kanawai.
No, that's good.
My God. Thank you so much for that background, for context. If I can hop over to KAMANA'O. KAMANA'O, you've been, well, first of all, congratulations. You're now at the Ohana Institute, where you can actually be on Ohana and enjoy Ohana, so congratulations to you. But having said that, your prior capacity, you were fundamental in creating this document. I'm curious as to what you envisioned at that time, and basically how can we execute and implement on what's been created here?
In the period of 2014-15, when the Kealiikanakaoleohaililani were on the Mauna, the governor had proposed a 10-point plan at the time for consideration about future directions in terms of the care, management, and oversight of Mauna Kea. I was involved in a number of discussions with him and his team, as well as with others from the leadership from the University of Hawaii and community. In that period, I don't know exactly what year, 2014, 15, but early in the discussions when a lot of the Pilikia was evolving, there was a big meeting at UH campus. Many people represented there, and Pipua Kanahele was one of those individuals. It was the first time all of those groups had actually met to discuss the future for Mauna Kea, and I helped to facilitate it. And the discussion surfaced a lot on why I want Mauna Kea for culture, why I want Mauna Kea for science, and what we seem to have missed is the basic fundamental role and responsibility just to Malama. No one was talking about what we're going to do to care for Mauna Kea. So at that time, there was discussion about law and rule of law, and people had made a comment, well, what about Mauna Kea's rights? What about the natural law of the Mauna? Who is going to advocate and speak up for Mauna Kea? And no one responded. And so with that, I had follow-up discussions with her as well as with Huihui and Kekuhi. And we had realized is that in order for us as a Lahui, as a Hawaiian community, we will need to elevate ourselves to a higher consciousness to work with government and to educate, to inform, based on our traditions, our customs, and our beliefs, and to articulate it in a way that government and others can understand that what we are talking about is aloha aina, malama aina. Not just surface ahupua'a management, and not just surface I love the land. We have to get to a much deeper level that involves policy changes that will cascade down to actual programs within. Our intent was really to change DOLNR in a positive way. And part of that was land in Hawaii and water are very valuable. And we are island people, island nation. And so we have limited resources. We can only go so far. But if there is not a set of kanawai or laws that actually address that and how you plan for the future, then we keep going around in circles. So with that, Pipua, Kekuhi, and Huihui agreed. OHA supported research that they had done on the kulia, uli'i, and ko'ihonu chants, and that back and forth is to come up with this document as part of supplemental documents to propose to the state that we believe at the time that it was a win-win for Hawaii community and government to begin coexisting with ideology and fundamentals on how we care for our wahikupuna, our wahikapu, and doing it in a way where it's collaborative. I think right now, one example of that, you, Kekoa, Bob, we were co-founders or co-sponsors last year, 2018, for the AINA Summit. We talked with Huihui and Kekuhi to actually apply the knowledge. We agreed on a 3-organization collaborative to support Halal Ohia, which actually takes the Kanawai document and goes into what I would consider intense, deep training on these philosophies and concepts, and begin integrating it into each organization begin to integrate it, incorporate it into papers, research, and then program. And so, in a way, if we want systemic change, we're going to have that kind of a foresight to move forward.
Mahalo Kamana'o, what a great segue. So, Alo Ohiga, yes, a number of folks in the room have participated or are participating in Alo Ohiga. Can you remind me, when did the initial cohort begin? Was that maybe 4 or 5 years ago now?
2016.
16. Okay, so about 4 years ago was the start of Alo Ohiga. Yeah? Yeah, maybe a little bit about that, and then I'll talk about it.
Okay. Kealoha Yakakua. So Halau Ohia is a way of, it's called the Hawaii Stewardship training program. Well, I have to say what it is in English. But really it's not enough to learn concepts of land. Where the change really begins is in our behavior and in our attitudes. It's not enough to say, oh yeah, that's good, we should go for it. Yeah, we've got to change fundamentally at the core of who we think we are as Kanaka living in this landscape. Kanaka, whether or not you have Kanaka, Koko Kanaka or not, you see. And so Halau Ohia was created to actually teach people and move people through, who take care and steward our land probably more intensively than a lot of us, a lot of people outside of this room, more intensively than any of us are on the land or in the ocean. No, so these stewards, these people, the people in conservation and biology and ecology and marine and education and science education and all those areas, they're on the Aina choke times. Yet, like Huihui said, nobody's oriented them as to how to be in the Aina. We haven't oriented them. Yet, we leave it up to them to make the decisions. Whether we like it or not, we've left it up to them. So from the technician to the clerk to the CEO, I don't care who come into Halau Ohia. As long as you come in with an awesome attitude and you somehow working in the Aina, on the Aina, for the Aina, or the Kai, Aina and Kai is same connection underneath. Then Halau Ohia, it's a transformative process. That's what it's gonna take. If we just observe the Aina and all of the Hulihia activities that happen in the Aina, we know that the best growth and the best sprouting in Aina terms happens when there's a Hulihia event. So why are we always knocking our heads on the wall thinking that Kanaka gonna be any different? There has to be a Hulihia event and it has to start in the Vailua. And it has to generate biophysically in the body before we can start changing laws. That is going to propel what we need to do next, whatever you decide we need to do next. So that's what Halau Ohia is all about. The training? Okay, so we started in 2016 pretty much because I was tired of doing workshops and consultations and Hawaiian cultural components and projects and reports and all that. And I said, no, we really need to be thoughtful about this.
Workshops don't work unless you're a practitioner. It just doesn't. I've done enough to know, and a lot of you have done enough of those. No, we need to change fundamentally. And I'm not just saying change you. It's not about you, it's about what I need to change over here too. Okay, so then we started in 2016. The training is 5 classroom sessions, 8 hours a session. And you meet intensively and you spill your brains. Better yet, you become super vulnerable to the person sitting next to you, wherever they work at. I don't care where you work. Then that's the thing. You step into the opportunity to make this transformation, and it doesn't start off with, okay, where you work. It starts off with who you. That's where it starts. And people are willing, as long as you're willing to be vulnerable about that. Who are you and what is your relationship to that thing over there, that person, that plant person, that rock person, that ocean person, or whatever? And that's where it starts. So we have 4 in-class sessions, basically. We have 1 huaka'i session. Then again, I could do a 2-hour thing just on curriculum. Okay, and then power that session, then you jump into another cycle. Power that 5-class session, you jump into another cycle. It's not a university. So I don't care if people come class, they don't come class. Me think they're still in that frame of mind. We just move forward. They gotta take care of their babies, they gotta take care of their babies. They gotta bring their babies, they gotta bring their babies. But by opening up the space, that is an authentic space for learning. Right there. Where you get the mother and she's feeding Chi-Chi, then you get grandpa over there, looks something like Uncle Bob, the grandpa is in that class. Then you get, then you get the university professor over there, and this person over here, this person over here, and you just gotta make it work. And they're just a bunch of wonderful people. I've not ever met a bunch of wonderful people. And so the oldest class, which is Mililani and Natalie's class, I think they're in like their 8th cycle, which means about 40 classes in. Which means about, 3 years, it seems like 10. Yeah. I'll try to cut their line. Make a halale, put it on and give me that scissors. You gotta get out there, you're done. then I'm uniki. So I don't know about them. So anyway, since that class, I opened another cohort in 2018 in Hilo, another cohort on Oahu in 2018, and another cohort, this current cohort in Oahu in 2019. My time is up.
Mahalo Kekuhi. I come with so much ignorance when it comes to Hawaiian things, I have to admit. But in this experience that she's explaining, whether you're kanaka or not, the emphasis is on Hawaii life ways, which is, I just love that as an overarching theme. So whether you're kanaka or not, whatever your role is within your particular organization in life, she brings out the value that we all bring to the table. And we can geek out for 3-4 hours in the morning just on what this particular plant person means to all 45 of us in the class. And we all walk away with something guaranteed we didn't know prior to the conversation. And she's right, we never did introduce ourselves by name or even by where we work. And that's so beautiful to me. Super vulnerable. Some of us, like me, never done Sula before, we're learning now. And we're learning Mele, and it's super vulnerable and super uncomfortable, but in that discomfort comes growth. So mahalo for that context, Kekohi. Pivoting to Uncle Bob, before I hand the mic to him, I will tell you as first deputy prior to coming to Kamehameha Schools 2 years ago, I was part of this conversation on the need to create some guiding document, some path to bridge the perceived difference between culture and science. So I had a little bit of a conversation, a part in that. Uncle Bob, maybe not so much, yeah? Fair to say, in the last couple of years, A lot of the conversations, frankly, were elevated by the time he came aboard at DLNR through the courts and contested case and whatnot. But I will say it's through his support and, in essence, Suzanne case that we now have this specific cohort for DLNR, OHA, and Community schools to be part of in this particular Papa alumni. So with that said, Uncle Bob, can I just pick your brain? Right now, the three organizations are in Hala'ohi'a, and so basically a 3-year agreement that we go through this process. What made DLNR decide to support its employees to participate in this, and what do you see as the value of your staff participating in this training?
I think before I answer your question, I gotta tell you that Kekuhi, Huihui, and I worked together way before Hala'ohi'a, when I was at the U.S. Forest Service. And I felt all my holiday scientists needed to get a little cognitive dimension learning on island values and how finite resources lead to the development of values that cherish all life forms, whether it's in Hawaii or Ireland, Sicily or Japan, whatever. Island values evolve out of a sense of sustainability concerns for finite resources, whereas continental values, which is what the world is governed by now, is all based on use it, all the resources of it for our selfish reasons. And when it's done, you just go and rape and pillage the next country. And the world is now an island, and we feel strongly that island values need to influence a world that is now resource-based like an island. It's finite. And so back some more than 10 years ago, we took our scientists out to Kekoa. Remember that? And Kekuhi would say, feel the spirit of the ocean. Feel the spirit of the trees and the leaves. And you see these blonde, blue-eyed guys saying, they look at me and they say, Masuda,
What the heck?
what the hell are you doing to us? I said, hey, get with the program. This is not about cognitive brilliance. This is about affective dimension relationships. And you gotta be able to relate with everything, including all forms of life. And Kekuhi and Huihui and Kua went on. I think I'm 1 year older than your mom. Yeah. Oh no, she's 1 year older than me.
No, she's 83.
Oh, you reported she's a couple years older than me.
Don't point that out.
Oh, don't tell her. I think you have to tell her you told me publicly. But anyway, the point is, out of that came a group of scientists, totally out of Western background, that began to learn how to Huihui before they went into the forest. They began to relate how they were exposed. And out of that came, next thing I know, Kekuhi is cockroaching our big conference room at the Forest Service, and she's having this thing called Hala'ohi'a with all the lahala mats on the ground and everything else. So I have a sense of how this took root. And even before going back to the LNR, I was there prior. That's why I said I'm the bridge between the meat. I was in this job twice, and Kekoa was in between somewhere. He's much younger than I am. So, but the point is, state government operates so much in silos, and so we have begun a process. Both Suzanne and I feel strongly that if there's anything we can leave in December 2022, it's not going to be all the projects that we're working on and everything else. It's going to be hopefully a capacity within the department of people of all backgrounds to work together on behalf of all of our people and all of our resources. That's our goal. And so out of that goal, we have a NRAT program, which Emma helped me coordinate, which is I cannot call them dirty dogs even if they work in the dirt, so I call them NRATs, Natural Resources Advancement Team. And we meet every month, we talk about different, take them all out of their silos. So Hanao Kuhia was a natural for integrating who are the three major land asset management organizations in the state. It's going to be ultimately OHA, with all the ceded lands, the Eleanor Land Division, or the Eleanor as a department, and community schools. So we're getting together with these two guys, and they're conniving guys too, so they suck me into this whole thing. And we're delighted to have been invited to promote. The point is, if we get a half a dozen or a dozen or 15 of each, from each organization, relating together all day, 1 day a month, for 2 or 3 years or whatever. You think it's 1 year, but I hope it's 2 or 3 years. Because it might take longer for some people. You know, it's hard to get out of your shell and get back in. So I got what I wanted. Thank you. I appreciate the 1 minute. So that ultimately, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, we'll have people with the leadership of the organizations managing the INA that know each other, that trust each other, that have worked together with each other, more on a cognitive level. And all of us cannot be Kanaka Maoli. I know for a fact that I'm not, because I took my spit test. I was hoping maybe I get everybody, all my friends were betting I had plenty Portuguese, but it turns out I'm mostly Japanese with some Pake and Yo and no Hawaiian. And so I cannot be Kanaka Maoli, no matter what. It's a fact, science. But spiritually, I feel like I can be Kanaka Manao. And I think if all of us, whether we're Native Hawaiian racially or not, can begin to get the sense of values of our islands and appreciate the blessing we have, then we can work together. And that is why Chair Case and I support totally the involvement of the state government. State government is probably the most maligned. You know, everybody throws stone. If you're going to pick one stone and throw it someplace, it's normally going to be the Eleanor. So we understand that, and we understand the hakaka from the past. But we got to move beyond that. What we care about is the future and how well we nurture our natural and our cultural resources. And so with the help of our Kanakaole sisters and community schools and OHA, we think we can do this together. By the way, I sent out an email saying, those under 40, so I got scolding because politically illegal or legally illegal and politically incorrect. But I do all kinds of politically incorrect stuff in the department, and I always get scolding. But you know, when you hit 80, you don't give a rip.
Mahalo, Uncle Bob. Mahalo to our panelists. Believe it or not, we just blew through the time that we were allowed. I know it was just a really high-level conversation about Kiho'iho'i. We do hope you continue this conversation over lunch. And if there's any questions of the panelists, we'll take it then. But at this time, thank you for your attention. If I may impose upon my relative here today, my Auntie Lealoha, perhaps to offer pule for our lunch today. Auntie, you're so loved. Again, please, a hand for Kamana'o Crabbe, Kekuhi, Huihui, Uncle Bob, Masuda. Thank you for being here to share with us.